Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode about the movies with William Fletcher. As per usual, I am your host, William Fletcher, and I am joined this week by a very special guest, a new guest who's never been on the show before, Miss Amy Kim.
Hi! Ooh, I feel special already.
And this week, we are going to be looking at to tie into the release of Poor Things, although I've already seen it, so to tie into the release of Poor Things, we're gonna look at the favorite, but also sort of look at the rest of the Yorgos Lanthimos' career. I was not able to get everything watched. Some I couldn't find. I couldn't find them. Just went looking in my usual places, my definitely very legal places, and I couldn't find them at all. And I didn't get to watch everything, so it's not going to be like a full retrospective, but we're going to touch on a decent amount of his work as a filmmaker. Yeah, and I'm not familiar. Like, I hadn't seen any of these films until this year, so I came in very just with no knowledge on him as a filmmaker. I was aware of his films, but I hadn't seen any of them.
And meanwhile, when you asked me, I had only seen The Favorite, and then
Mhm,
I only watched a couple of his other films. Like, literally this week, I saw The Killing of the Sacred Deer and The
mm.
Lobster, and I started Dogtooth, and then we had to record. So there we go. There we have it. I've seen 3 of his films.
Yeah, I don't really know where yeah, his early films that I could not find. Like, they're very, like, not many people have seen them, I imagine, because they're very. But like, I tried looking on YouTube because I thought, like, oh, maybe they'll be there. No, they're not
Hmm.
even on YouTube. And I'm like, that's where I go to find, like, obscure, like, a lot of the time stuff is just uploaded to YouTube and it's not been removed because nobody knows about it. So, like, it doesn't. It's not really a problem. They're like, yeah, whatever. I don't care.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not a movie, you know? Part 1 out of 17 parts of this lovely movie.
So yeah, his sort of early sort of films. Again, I haven't seen them, so I can't really say much. But they're in Greek, I believe.
Yorgos Lanthimos' earlier films. I took a quick look on Letterboxd, and it
Mm,
actually doesn't seem like a lot of his earlier films were that well received, I guess. Like, so
mhm.
I feel pretty good about just having seen the films of his that I have. 'Cause I think we
Yeah.
have probably gotten to the point where we've seen the best of him as a filmmaker at this point. He's
Mhm.
evolved his craft at the point, and I'm making excuses right now because I'm lazy. But you know what? I'm okay with it. I'm cool with it. Are you
Yeah.
cool with it?
I'm
Yeah.
just looking. So his first one, My Best Friend, literally there's no plot synopsis on Wikipedia. Like, there's literally nothing. There's like the sort of sort of opening lot of like line at the top saying what the film is. Like, it says My Best Friend is a 2001 Greek comedy film directed by Yorgos Lanthimos and Lakis Lazopoulos. It is Lanthimos' feature film directorial debut. Then there's the cast, then there's the box office, then there's the references, then there's the external links, and then there's nothing. Like, there's literally nothing about the film. And just looking at IMDb, it's got a 5.2. So,
Ooh.
we're not missing. Like, and I just want to see how many ratings of 1,000, like 1,100 ratings. Like, that's not bad, to
Oh,
be honest, for a film that.
I would say still a film by Yorgos Lanthimos, one of like I would say one of the more highly esteemed currently working directors, only having
Mhm.
1,100 ratings. That's not a great uh
No,
sign. Then again,
like,
it doesn't exist, so
yeah,
like you cannot find.
yeah, I could not find it. And then, so that was his follow-up film, Kinetta, which I also haven't seen. Again, couldn't find it, but it's got a 4.7 on IMDb, so that's, not that that's lower. Like, but it's also got more ratings. It's got 20
Sophomore
over
slump
22.
indeed. Jesus.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, then he followed that up with Dogtooth. which I haven't seen, but like is readily available, so I will have to watch it. I don't really know what Dogtooth is, like what it's about. Or Alps, which is the film we made after that, because I didn't get the time to see them. I apologize. It's bad form of me. I usually, if I'm covering a director, I usually watch all their films, but you know, then this time, I'm sorry. You know, to be fair, these are not films that people are like, oh, I want to. Although I know Dogtooth is very well regarded as a film.
You're not gonna get like any My Best Friend's fans be like, "How dare you not include his masterpiece in your podcast?" You're not gonna get people like that. Nobody really
Yeah.
cares.
Yeah, let's move on to The Lobster, which I did start watching. I didn't get too far into it. I've seen like the first 10 minutes maybe. So I'm not which is not really which isn't a lot, I will admit. I'll finish watching it at some point because it's got, it's people say it's good and it's got Colin Farrell. Can't go wrong with Colin Farrell. As long as he's doing his as long as Colin Farrell like uses his regular voice, like he doesn't do an accent, then it's good. If he has to do like an American accent, then it's like you fucking nuded him. Like that's not it's not Colin Farrell. You can't do that to can't do it to. He's got to use the Irish accent.
And his Irish accent's so just lovely as well. I don't know why you'd constrain him by that. I actually have seen The Lobster though, and I have like sort of mixed feelings about it. I definitely liked it. And I
Mhm.
think that it's like a fascinating concept, and I liked how it satirized um the way modern romance works and how superficial
Mm.
some of those connections can be. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I think I wanted a bit more emotional investment in a movie that's
Mm.
about romance, because I think it kind of there's a point, I won't spoil it for you since you haven't watched it, but there's
Mhm.
a point where the film kind of shifts. And initially, I was totally
Okay.
fine with it. I was on board with the film changing in a certain way. But I think it kind of lost steam after that because I wasn't really as invested
Yeah.
anymore. And I like, yeah, like I like the ending. I like the movie. I would still give it like an 8 out of 10, but I think
Mhm.
that it started off so strong and compelling and interesting, and then it sort of just like ended on an okay, and on an okay for me, you know.
Yeah.
Rachel Weisz is
I
so good at it. I love Rachel Weisz.
Oh yeah, Rachel Weisz is in it. I'm just looking at the cast here. Olivia Colman is in it. John C.
He's a
Riley,
guy.
my boy. I love John C. Riley so much. Like like I genuinely think he's an incredible actor. Like I've never seen him in a film and been like, yeah, that was kind of like not a good. I've seen 11 John C. Riley films, which isn't like
Hmm.
a high amount, but like most of these are like 8 out of 10. Like these are
Hmm.
most these are mostly I can't but yeah, The Lobster, I haven't seen it. Sorry, but I have seen The Killing of a Sacred Deer, which I
Oh,
watched.
okay.
Yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was very good. Yeah, I thought I was watching it and because Barry Keoghan's in it and I saw Saltburn recently and I'm like, is this going to be the second film I see this year where Barry Keoghan like because they were talking about periods, and I'm like, oh, don't tell me this same thing is gonna happen here. Like it doesn't stop. I'm like, please don't.
No.
I'm like, God. I'm like, please don't. Please don't. One was enough. I didn't. I was like, there's no way. There's no way. There's
Oh
two
my
movies.
god.
I'm sorry. I'm just like, I'm sorry. Just like, but Barry Keoghan, just one of those like.
You have to be afraid whenever he's on screen because you don't know what that little guy is gonna do. Okay, you gotta be prepared for anything because that man is not afraid to get weird in his movies. I actually, I do a little bit wish I hadn't seen Killing of a Sacred Deer before Saltburn because even though I did really like Saltburn, I think I have to say I prefer his performance in The Killing of a Sacred Deer just like a smidge more because it was just so unnerving. I was like terrified whenever he was on screen, just saying his
Yeah,
little things. And I was like, oh my
yeah.
god. Oh.
There was a certain uncanniness to the film, I felt. Yeah, Barry Keoghan, I think like he's one of the best sort of up and coming. Is he up and coming still? I don't one of like I don't know if I don't
She's
like
up
I
and
don't
coming to me, okay?
like I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what like how do we determine what does up and coming mean? Like I it's not, but I think he's a really good actor. It's a shame I don't like his Joker at all. It's a shame that his Joker is terrible because he's really good at being this incredibly unnerving like character. So theoretically, like his Joker should be great. Like if he's that good at being just weird and creepy and unnerving, I'm like, okay, so his Joker, like theoretically, but it doesn't, and I don't know if that's. Yeah, he's barely in the Batman. I will admit, like
Yeah.
he's not in it that much, so I can't
Mhm.
really say like too much on that. So again, he'll be in more well, at least another Batman. So I guess we'll see then. But yeah, I think he's very good. I was just watching the film and being like, all right, this is a bit stressful. This is a bit not really my I'm like, okay. The music, I think the music is a big part of that. I think the
The
scoring.
music. Oh my god. I think the music in The Lobster is like does like creates a similar effect of being like unnerving, but it is cranked up so hard in The Killing of a Sacred Deer, I think. I was just stressed as heck for the like back half of
Mm,
this film. And
mm.
even like in the beginning when nothing's really happening, I was just enthralled because I'm like, okay, nothing's really happening. But the way it's being shot and how intense the score is playing, something's happening. And I just couldn't stop watching it.
No, I was I sort of I was like, okay, so it's going on I was like, okay, it's a bit long, it's going on a bit, but then and sort of we're gonna get like when it gets to the third act, I'm like, all right. And then there's like sort of not the final scene, but like the where Colin Farrell's got the gun and he's spinning around. I'm like, oh,
Oh my
okay,
god. Oh
this is
god.
pretty good. I'm like, this is actually pretty good. I like this. I like this a lot. Yeah, no, I'm like, okay, you brought it all together. I can sort of overlook
Yeah.
the whole like, I'm like, all right, I can ignore that because like the last 10 minutes or so, I'm like, oh, that's just really fucked. That's good. That's good. But I'm like, that's good because I think that's more engaged. That's like, oh, so you were building to something, unlike the favorite, which I think is kind of just like it just ends, but because they're just like, well, where else can we go? But we'll get onto that in a minute. Yeah, there was a lot about it that I was like, because I'm not. Because yeah, as I sort of said this before, but yeah, there was a real sort of uncanny sort of vibe to it, and I couldn't
Mhm.
really. I was watching it like how, and I think the score is like the main element of that. That's like because it's just like piercing, like violet, like it's just like it's like strings. It's like Psycho, It's just like this, like very like piercing orchestra, and I'm like, okay, please stop now. This is just getting a bit much. This is really going into that sort of tension,
Mm.
and I'm like, this is and I was just like, okay, this is good. Yeah, I think it like I think that's probably the best part of the film is how well it's able to create an atmosphere, a vibe, an atmosphere of like,
Yeah. Yeah, the entire film felt very surgical to
mm,
me, I guess. I think that's like the best way I could put it because it all feels so meticulously crafted and yet it's so unnerving. Like you shouldn't be watching this sort of. And it was just all so tense
yeah.
and I really loved the experience because sometimes I just need a feel bad movie. I just need a movie that just makes me feel like absolute gutter, just like, oh my gosh. And then that ending, the ketchup, are you kidding me?
It's weird how engaging I found Barry Keoghan just stuffing his face with spaghetti. Like the way he's just eating, I'm like, what is why? Like that shouldn't be interesting. Like eating food is not an inherent. But he just has this sort of magnetic personality almost, where
Yeah.
he's able to take something incredibly mundane but make you so engaged by it. And I'm like, I think
Mhm.
like he's gonna be a like he already is like becoming a bigger deal, but like he's
Mhm.
gonna go to like I think he's gonna hit that next level. He's just gonna be getting Oscar nominations, left and right, possibly a win. I could see him
Ooh.
winning at some point, but not yet necessarily. But he can
Mhm.
I can see him just showing up like every couple years. He just puts out a great performance, like Oscar nom. Like I can like see that.
Yeah. This might age terribly, but I think even with Saltburn, which came out right after his first Oscar nomination, I think he's gonna get at least a Golden Globe nomination. I think he will probably get that. I think he's just gonna keep choosing interesting projects. I think his filmography is so fascinating. I really hope he continues that trend of just doing interesting stuff. And I think if he keeps going on that track, he'll keep getting recognition for it.
Yeah, I'm just looking at his filmography now. Like he did Dunkirk, a Nolan film, and Killing of the Sacred Deer in the same year. Like that's two completely different films. He did, he did the Batman and the Banshees of Inisherin. Again, two very different films. He was in Eternals. Like so he's sort of popping up over. He's doing franchise stuff, but he's also got sort of the sort of more indie stuff. He was in Chernobyl. Like he pops up in things. He does. He's sort of spreading his presence. I guess he's not just one way or the other, and I think that's
Yeah.
what a lot of actors should do. I'm lecturing actors on how to just do, but yeah, just being like, doing lots of different things, and you might not
Yeah.
always be in a good film, but like, I think doing different kinds of films is like, is a good thing, having a varied resume of like, look, I can do franchise stuff, but I can do smaller indies, he's not. And I think that's good because I think some actors sort of do get placed into sort of bubbles of like, oh, you do this a lot, so this is what we're only going to cast you in forever. And I think the fact that he's been able to, and the way he's been able to do this with like, he grew up in foster care. He was in 13 foster homes when he was younger. Like he's
Mhm.
not like he's come from nothing really. Like he is one of those true like rags to riches stories. He's not someone who
Mhm.
like had parents who were film producers or whatever. He came from nothing. Killing Those Sacred Deers got again Colin Farrell. Again, very good. I like Colin Farrell. I've never not liked Colin Farrell in something. Even when he is doing an accent, because it's still Colin Farrell.
I was the most impressed by Nicole Kidman. I'm gonna be honest. I really loved her in this movie.
Yeah, I thought she was all right. um,
No, I didn't expect it to be a popular opinion. I just wanted to just get that out there, get that off my chest. I think she was the best performance in that. Maybe I'm biased because I do love Nicole Kidman, but I just really loved what she did here.
and I was watching Killing My Sacred Deer, and I was like, and there was Barry Keoghan and his mum, and I'm like, is that Alicia Silverstone? And it was, and I was like, what the fuck? What? I haven't seen her in anything in fucking year. Like she was like a '90s, like actor, and she doesn't really do much anymore because she was like a big thing in the '90s that we all. And she sort of, not like she didn't do stuff up. Like Jesus Christ, she's been in a lot of things, but I've just haven't
Yeah.
seen it much of this because like fuck, Jesus Christ, so many credits on just a Wikipedia page. Yeah, no, I think there's Killing Us Sick. Yeah, like as I say, I think it definitely goes on a bit. I will say, but I think a lot of it, so much of it, is engaging that it very much to me is like, well, I'm someone who goes on about film length all the fucking time. Like I'm very particular about film length, and that's the opening shot of the film. I was just like, okay, we're just opening up with surgery. Cool, 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 cool,
Oh yeah,
cool,
I was just like,
cool.
oh, I'm not doing that. I walked out of the room for a little bit because I can't do that kind of stuff. But thankfully, not too much of it in this movie. So
Yeah, it's really
I'm famous
not.
for that.
And there's a lot about the film that's just like it's a pretty fucked up film, and I think that's
Hmm.
I can go with that, as long as like it's saying something. If it's just like, oh, here's something, oh, we're gonna be edgy and have something fucked up happen, but we're not saying anything. It's like, well, that's not. Is this like edgy comedians? I'm
Ooh,
saying things
oh,
I
I just
can't.
said something controversial. Oh.
I think a lot of films are just like, oh, edgy. Oh, it's like, oh, we're gonna have a scene where someone's assaulted, and it's just like, but it's not
Ooh.
saying anything.
If you want to be like provocative, or if you want to like make a bold choice or whatever, you have to have something to back it up, have some substance to it. And I think that the killing of the sacred deer does like a lot of kooky stuff. It's a bit long, it makes some interesting choices and whatnot, but I think it all feels relatively justified because the way it all ends is
Mm.
so good. It's just like it's kind of terrifying. I wouldn't call it like satisfying because if you think that's a satisfying ending, like a real feel good cathartic ending, go to therapy a little bit. But it just works so well.
I think that was because initially I was like, okay, why is he putting bags in heads? And then he started spinning them like, oh, and I was like, oh, right. I actually don't. I think that's like. I'm like, okay, that's a good ending. It's like fucked up, but it's not
Yeah.
just fucked up for the sake of it. It's like a whole like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing, and I'm like, I mean, that's probably the fairest way to do it. It's not a great choice he has to make, but I'm like, okay. I mean, I guess like that's if you don't want to, because picking just feels, and I'm like, and then he
Yeah.
misses a couple times, and it's like, okay, and I'm like, he's eventually gonna hit one of them, but it's like the
Yeah.
rule of three, like he misses the first two, but he hits it on the third, and then he does, and I'm like, and then there's just Barry
But the
Keoghan just at the diner, just like with a glass of water, just sipping from a straw, and I'm like, why is that so annoying? Not annoying. No, that's what the fuck am I talking about? Fuck it. No, it's like unnerving. It's like it's just so unnerving how he's just sitting there, just looking like just slurping from a straw, and I'm like, okay, that's fucked up. But like, it's good. I like it. I think that's a good ending. That's a good way to sort of end this film and be like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. I think it's a good film. I think it's I give it an 8.
I think I would give it like I think I'd give it a 9 out of 10. Honestly, I loved it. I loved the way it played with like righteousness, and if it's like and how things are justified and whatnot. And I just love talking about
Yeah.
it as well. Like talking about it with you has been really fun.
But yeah, following on from that, we move on to the favorite. We're gonna not agree on this one. I like the movie,
We are not.
but it's okay. Like it's okay. It is a movie. Yeah, exists, and I don't.
Mm.
I'm happy to have watched it. I don't really think it's that great, and like, we'll get into it, I'm sure. But I feel like you're about to just. When I had Sasha on, I just let Sasha just go on for fucking minutes and just didn't interrupt because I'm like, Sasha's got some things he wants to say. I'm just gonna sit back and not say anything because that'll ruin the flow. And I'm just gonna let him go. And I feel like that's what's gonna happen right now. So I'm just gonna let you go and not just sit back,
Oh,
just not say anything.
okay. So the thing is, I'm not the most articulate person, so I'm not going to go on Sasha diatribe because he's a lot more well spoken about films and about like dissecting the themes and whatnot than I am. So I'm just gonna say The Favorite is one of my all-time favorite movies. I love it. I love the power dynamics. I was watching The
Mm.
Favorite because of the dynamic between Anne, Sarah, and Abigail. Wanted to make sure I got those names right. Wanted to see the dynamic between those three characters, and it's just so juicy. I love it. I love the way that they play on like love and power, and the way it all culminates is just really kind of heartbreaking a bit. Like I came in here to laugh and have a good time, but I didn't expect to be like a bit moved with the whole thing about how Sarah, she loves Anne, and that's because of she loves Anne, she's gonna tell her the truth, but Anne's ego can't take it. And I just thought that was kind of heartbreaking a bit because I could kind of relate to that. You don't want to hear the truth all the time, but the people who love you will say it. And I think the way it, and then the bunnies, the rabbits, I think the parallel with the rabbits and Abigail, it's just juicy. And I really was just blown away a bit by the way the film ended. I like that's the note that they chose to like that's the note they chose to end it on. And then I was thinking about it and I'm like, yeah, that works so well.
So I'm just looking at the cast list here, because there's like only really like maybe like there's like the main three, then there's Nicholas Hoult, and there's Joe Alwyn,
Yeah.
and Mark Gatiss. And then I'm just looking at the cast list. The 8th listed cast member is called Wanking Man. Like, there's not like that's just weird that like the guy in the carriage at the beginning, and I'm like, that's high billing for that part. Because he's only in like that just made me uncomfortable. I'm like, okay, we're starting off with a guy. Great, cool.
I mean,
With
he
other
did what he
people.
had to. He the actor did what he had to do, and I
Yeah,
respect it. 8th billing for Wanking Man, good for him.
yeah. But sort of the main cast. Olivia Colman is not the lead, by the way. I think it's. She's not. I don't think she's the lead at all. I think Emma Stone is the lead. I think Olivia Colman is supporting. And it like I'm not against her winning an Oscar for that role.
I think Emma Stone is the lead as well. However, for me, I think she's lead in the same way that, to me, Lily Gladstone in Killers of the Flower Moon is lead. Because even though maybe the screenplay or the screen time may not reflect either one as being lead, I think the presence that they have on the film and the impact that they have and the fact that they are the ones you take away from that film, what you're left with, I think that makes both of them feel lead to me in my heart of hearts. But yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
just glad Olivia Colman got an Oscar for that though. I think she's just
yeah.
brilliant.
I mean,
But I
yeah.
do agree that
I mean, yeah. Olivia Colman. I'm a big fan of Olivia Colman. I've never not seen Olivia Colman in something and thought she wasn't. Even in like something like Hot Fuzz, which is like a very small part of Hot Fuzz, but I think she's really great in that small role. Fleabag. I think she's very great in that.
oh, she's so good in Fleabag.
I think she's the father. I thought very good in the father, obviously. But yeah, and I think she's very good in The Favorite. I'm not gonna pretend I don't think she is, and I'm just like, I don't know if I'd say she's the lead. I mean, she's top billed, so maybe that's part of it. But I definitely don't think she is the lead. I think Emma Stone is the lead, who I've had an interesting relationship with as an actor. I never thought she was a bad actor. Generally was always like she's an act like she's okay was sort of my general thoughts on her. But then I saw The Favorite. I thought she's very good in that. I've seen Poor Things. She should be winning the Oscar for Poor Things, by the way. Like,
Yes, we'd love to see it.
just like she's literally a contender for the best performance of the year. I think I might prefer Mark Ruffalo in it, but I'll get on to that later. I think she's very, very good in The Favorite, and I've been watching The Curse, and I'm not sold on it. I've watched like the 3 episodes they're at. I'm like, this is okay. But Emma Stone is very good in it, so I'm like, yeah, I think she's very good in it. Olivia Colman and Rachel Weisz. We've also fucking and Emma Stone. We've got Rachel Weisz. Weisz, fucking I don't know.
Rachel, you got
Yeah, I've not. I was just looking, and I'm like, I've not seen her in that much actually. It's probably the. I mean, this isn't the best film I've seen her in, but it's probably the best performance I've seen from her. But yeah, I think that the way the sort of the main three play off each other, I think work really well. I think that's like sort of the best part is the way those three
Mm.
characters are. Yeah, the way they play off each other and work as sort of a yeah, like the interesting stuff is their sort of dynamics. Nicholas Holt is also, and I do really like Nicholas Holt as well. I think Nicholas Holt is a very great
Yeah,
actor.
I love Nicholas Holt.
I watched About a Boy recently, and I'm like that,
Yes, I love About a Boy.
and I'm like, oh, so he always was a good actor. He even as a child, he was pretty good, and I'm like, man, why are some child actors just awful, and why is some like I just don't know, like because like child acting is like so hit or miss. I know he's in The Great as well.
Yes, great in that. He got an Emmy nomination for it, richly deserved. And that's what I think is the best thing he's been in personally and his best performance. I think they just use him so perfectly, his comedic chops and his dramatic chops, and he's just so funny and like kind of heartbreaking in that role. I also think that Tony McNamara's script in that is just delightful. I love his writing. I'm really happy that he's the one who's writing the script for the Poor Things movie, because as a fan of the book, I think that it should probably lend itself really well to his style of writing.
Mark Gatiss, yeah, he's to be honest, I can't remember most of like these other cast members. I'm just like I remember the main three, Nicholas Holt and the Wanking Man. That's all I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's Joe Alwyn. He's Emma Stone's husband, right?
Yeah, that's the husband. He was
Yeah.
okay, but it was
Yeah,
like
he's
not
fine.
like you don't watch The Favorite and go, wow, Joe Alwyn's kind of good in this. You don't
Yeah.
remember him at all.
Yeah. The film. Yeah. There's this whole like war thing going on, and it's just like it feels like you didn't really need that. Like to me, it's sort of like okay, we've got this whole war thing, but it never really feels like it's like really a plot point or anything. It feels more like that's just sort of a nice fucking
Backdrop?
backdrop, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not like yeah, particularly yeah, it's not really. It's not like I feel like if that was sort of not mentioned or anything, I probably like honestly, I kind of forgot about it as a as sort of a element of the film, just purely because it's like it's not. I feel like it's mentioned, but it's also just sort of like there's no real yeah. There's just nothing to it really, and I'm just sort of like
Yeah.
okay, we can just sort of not. You know, we can just sort of move on from it. You know, it's just this whole thing,
Yeah.
and it's like yeah, I'm kind of done. You know, like I'm kind of just like I don't need this. Like this doesn't engage me in any way. You know, like I don't really care that like there's a war going on. I don't like it doesn't mean much to me. I'm just like give. I just want to know about. I just want to like see the power dynamics. You know, between these sort of three and this whole sort of fight for the top. You know, like who's going to be the one
Yeah.
who you know, that's what I'm like, this is what I'm more interested in than the whole like,
Yeah.
oh, there's a war going on because that's just not interesting to me. It's just like, okay, let's just get to the interesting stuff, which is the character
Mm-mm.
stuff. And oh,
See,
there's bunnies. There's lots of bunnies.
I honestly do kind of agree with you about the war as a backdrop. Except for me, I think I'm fine with it because I think it added drama to the movie. Just like it's a little extra spice to it, and so I didn't really mind. It didn't detract too much
Mm,
from the film for me. Although I will admit, when I went to Wikipedia and looked up the synopsis before recording this because I wanted to make sure I remembered what the heck this movie was. I was like,
mhm.
oh, there was a war going on in this movie. Yeah, and so I, like, completely forgot about that part. But
Yeah, well, because it's
I
sort
still
of
love
they
it
sort of
though.
yeah, they sort of reference it, but they never are like, "Oh, this is a," it's never sort of treated it. It's not like a major plot point of the film,
Mm.
really. There's also, I mean, there's lots of there's a bit of sex in this, and I was like, "Okay, okay, cool. We're just gonna focus on this." Okay, I'm not sure if we if like we need all this, but like I get the whole thing of like I understand it. It is interesting that Queen Anne was like a real person, right? I'm not misunderstanding that.
Yeah, I think she was
Yeah,
real. She was just not very famous
yeah,
or
Queen
important.
Anne. And I think because I was listening to another podcast and they were talking about The Favorite as well, and they were well, I sort of yeah, that's sort of more on my side. They're sort of like, yeah, it's all right, but they didn't love it, and one of them was just talking about this whole like, oh, these women, they're friends, must be lesbians, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily the film's like that's sort of the way the film is trying to portray it, but I can see that sort of point of like, well, these women are close. Guess they must be lesbians. Like I can see that as I can understand like where you can like where someone can come from that and be like, I'm not sure about that. I'm not
Oh,
necessarily
there's like
sure if that's the I don't know. Like 'cause I can understand that point of view, but I don't know. Maybe it just didn't bother me as much as like it doesn't impact my feelings on the film in any way, really.
honestly, the thing is though, when we get like biopics and historical movies and whatnot, people change stuff all the time. I mean, you have Ridley Scott going on
Oh
like
my
rants about
fucking god.
historians about Napoleon. Like, were you there? Then shut the fuck up. The other thing is though, I feel like since stuff is in historical movies are altered all the time, I don't get why this is an issue. And B,
Mm,
I feel like in terms of queerness in history in particular, it's really rare that you get overt stuff, and you often have to read between the lines because that like queerness wasn't like openly discussed back then a lot of the time. And I feel like it's fine to read into stuff if you find that there's something that sounds
mm.
interesting. And honestly, at the end of the day, though, do I think that them being lesbians enhanced the story? Absolutely. So I'm for it. I think I'm for it. That's my stance. That's my
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of this whole thing of like, because it's just like, well, if you're gonna do a one-to-one adaptation of what happened in real life, then that's fucking boring because real life is boring.
yeah.
It's the biopic thing again. It's like, can we just stop doing this? Can we like, you don't have to directly adapt what happened. You can, make some choices within reason that make the story
Yeah.
more engaging, or just don't make the movie. Like it's this like whole because biopics fucking are just so like if you're gonna make a biopic, gonna make a film about a real life thing that happened, you like not saying change the story necessarily, but like there are ways to make it more engaging than just a series of loosely connected events that are like at best tangentially related because that's what real life is and
Mm.
that's boring and that's not really
Yeah.
a story. There's no three arcs. There's no, A to B arc in the film
Yeah.
because real life doesn't really have that. And I think
Yeah.
the
Yeah, it's
favorite,
just like a
it's
grad.
yeah, taking from real life, but it's sort of like doing its own thing. I think the film though, I think it's just too long, and I wasn't as engaging through. I like sort of all this like whenever Queen Anne was interacting with Rachel Weisz or Emma Stone, I was like, this is good. I like this. And whenever it
Mhm.
wasn't that, like when Emma Stone's with like her partner or whatever, I'm just like, okay, yeah, cool. She's wanking him off while talking about something else. Okay, fucking, can we just get on with it? We're really focusing on this moment. and it doesn't. I don't need it. I get the whole like the point of that scene to a degree of like, okay, she's sort of figuring things out, but is there a need for her to be? I don't know. I don't know if we needed all the elements of that scene. You know, it
I don't know.
felt
Like unnecessary to you, or
yeah,
over
like
the top?
I'm just
Yeah.
no, I don't know if over the top. It's just
Or
sort
no,
of
no, no,
like
God, that's not
okay,
like we didn't need it exactly.
yeah,
Or
it's like if you're gonna have like sexual content, can there be like a point to it? I know like I
Mhm.
don't want it there just for like it almost just feels like okay, are we just doing this because we can? Like is there a
Mm,
need for it? Like I think Poor Things is an example where it's like okay, there's some sexual stuff here, but like it worked. Well, first of all, because some of it is really like funny, and I was like, "What the fuck am I? What like this is like my." I mean, we'll talk about Poor Things soon. Also, it doesn't really have it. I kind of because initially I was like, it doesn't really have an ending. Kind of like it's sort of like
hmm.
I wasn't left particularly satisfied with the ending, and maybe that's the point but I don't really know. Like, and I'm not against like sort of bleak kind of ending per se, but I just don't think the favorite real. I think that's part of it too. I think I need an ending of a film to work, and if the ending doesn't work, then it's gonna depending on how much I enjoyed the sort of however long the film is beforehand. That will sort of like Promising Young Woman, which we covered what I covered recently. I think the film's really great until the ending, and I'm like, I don't like that ending. But it's the
Mm,
whole think. So, like, if the ending doesn't come together for me, then I'm like, okay, this is. Then that all sort of impact because I was just sort of left like, okay, I feel like it's trying to say something here, but I don't quite know what, and it's sort of like, okay, we're trying to yeah, it just sort of felt like the film sort of reached a point and it was like, well, we can't really go any further, so we kind of have to end it here. Like, that was just sort of my take on it, and
mm.
I feel like you're about to disagree with me and tell me I'm wrong.
I am about to disagree with you and tell you you're wrong. Wow, how insightful. I do kind of get where you're coming from because it does to a point like feel like, oh, okay, we're building up to something and then it kind of just ends. But I think that how to phrase this, how to phrase this. I think it established the power dynamic really
Mhm.
well and it sort of just all came crumbling down for Abigail because of who she was at her core. And I think it's really I really like how maybe not like I don't take joy in this fact, but I found it interesting how Anne, after realizing what Abigail sees her as and how Abigail's love for her isn't actual love. She's just been using her this whole time and pretending to be nice
Mm.
and pretending to seem sweet and care about the rabbits. Oh, the cute little rabbits. But after she gets everything she ever wanted, she doesn't care. She has the queen right where she wants her. She has her husband who's a royal guy and that's great for her. And she doesn't care. Who cares about the stupid, dumb rabbits that are the stand in for Queen Anne's children. She doesn't care about,
Mm.
she's a cruel person at her core. And she starts like crushing them with her boot. And I think that's
Mm.
when Queen Anne realizes, oh, this is the person that
Yeah,
I have chosen.
I
I
chose the wrong person.
and then but then she's not really good either because for Queen Anne, it's also a kind of transactional relationship. She has been using Abigail for sex and whatnot. And so in the
Mm.
end, she puts her foot down, like literally, and she's like, this is what you are to me. You are mine. And don't
Mm.
go thinking that you are not above the bunnies.
Yeah.
You are just another bunny to me. You
Mm.
are one of my things, and I can still get rid of you even though I got rid of someone I loved for you. And I think that's just something I loved a lot, but that's because me personally, I am that just deeply invested in character dynamics, and that's the whole reason why I watch movies and TV shows. It's to get engaged in characters and how they interact with one another. And in that sense, for me, that was the perfect ending to the movie,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. But
And I do like the whole sort of element of like Rachel Weisz and Emma Stone. They're sort of playing two different games. Like Rachel Weisz's character, is like, wait, sorry, which is who again? Abigail is Emma Stone.
oh yeah, okay,
And
Abigail's on the
is
stone. Sarah is Rachel
Sarah's Rachel.
Wise.
Yeah, and because she was like, she's a real person. She died apparently a very rich woman. Her descendants will eventually sit on the throne in the UK. Again, I hadn't heard about any of these people beforehand, but I also am not British and I have no fucking investment in the royal family because why would I? They're like rich white people who uh, who like don't interest me. The romanticization of the royals, that I'm like, okay, are we really gonna do that? We're gonna make these incredibly rich, white, racist for the most part, white people. Like we're gonna champion them as I just like it's just like I don't. It doesn't. It's just weird. It's just weird to me. I just don't get it. The favorite. It's a movie. It's a movie. I think of the best picture nominees I have seen from that year. I think it's my least favorite. Let me look. Let
Oh
me
my
make sure.
god! What have you seen?
I've seen. I've seen. I think I've seen half of them. I don't think I've seen. I haven't seen Green Book. I
Okay.
haven't seen Bohemian Rhapsody.
Okay.
I
Okay.
haven't seen Roma. I haven't seen A Star Is Born. So I've seen Black Panther, Black Klansman, The Favorite, and Vice.
Oh, I want to see Vice so bad. I feel like I would love it. I feel like
Vice is
I'm the
like
Adam
Vice is
McKay
my
of
favorite
all
of
of this.
those.
Really?
I think Vice really, yeah, like it's just Adam. I like what Adam McKay does. I can't pretend I don't love. Like it's not subtle, but like fuck, it doesn't have. It does. It's not trying to be. That's like the thing. Like don't like it's not try. If it was trying to be subtle, like Adam McKay just isn't trying to be subtle. He's just being like, look, I'm gonna fucking hit you over the head with my messages, and I'm like, all right, that's fine. Like I'm not bothered by that.
Yeah.
I can go with that.
I think sometimes you just gotta get like whacked in the face with a sledgehammer by a movie's message. Like, I'm fine with that. I think that being subtle sometimes it's just like who needs it? There's enough subtle films. Let Adam McKay
Mm,
just have
yeah,
no subtlety whatsoever. Just be very
yeah.
overt, you know?
I think we've talked about The Favorite enough. I think I've made my point. I give it a
I think
7. I'm bracing myself for the flurry of anger and annoyance that you're gonna send my way.
yeah, I'm casting spells and hexes right now. You're not gonna have a lovely time, my guy. I would give it a solid mediocre 10 out of 10. It's one of my favorite films, pun intended. I love it. I love The Favorite so much. I want to rewatch it now. What can I say? I like me some silly, fun, just good times. Yeah, that's truly a way to describe The Favorite as I'm thinking about it. But
Yeah,
yeah, I
I
stand
guess
by it.
yeah.
I stand by it.
It's I guess like some of it, like it's a film that like if you can go with it, like that's it. That's what I've found. Like I can appreciate when a film like just isn't quite working for me, but I can see how like oh, if this is your thing, it will work for you, or vice versa.
Yeah.
If it's not your thing, it's not your thing. It's not. I don't think it's a bad film by any means. Like I think it's a very well. Okay, here's a problem I do actually have with it. Why the fuck does
Oh,
Yorgos Lanthimos use fisheye lenses? Like, what is the
because it's
why?
fun.
I like he
Because
did.
it's like
I
the show
think
being excess.
Poor Things has a few shots like that as well. But I think it works a bit more in Poor Things, to be honest. I think with Poor Things, it's like the film is like very out there, so I'm like, okay. Whereas I think The Favorite is more. I don't know if grounded is necessarily. I guess grounded is kind of the word I'm looking for, but not really. Whereas the Poor Things is literally just mental, just like it's a Frankenstein story. So I'm less bothered by it when it does like weird, like when it uses different kinds of camera lenses. Like it's just like. But The Favorite, it took me out of it a bit. I was like, okay, not sure about that.
He's just doing his thing, I guess. I don't know. I don't really have a justification for it. He just does it, and I'm okay with it because it looks
Mm,
kind of cool. I was like,
yeah.
"Ooh, wow, he moved the camera," and I thought that was cool.
Maybe
Alright.
that's the no offense, but maybe that's the difference. I'm like, and not as like I'm not trying to insult you, but I think like
Oh my
there's different ways in which we sort of view, like, because I feel like you're more generous about things than I am, which isn't a problem. It's just like I'm more, I guess, harsh is the word I'm looking for. Like, and that's not a
Mm.
problem. Like, I'm just like
Yeah.
it, and I think I try not to be overly generous. Like, I'm not throwing out 10 out of 10s all the time, because I'm like, if
I
it
do
needs,
I do
like, if
that a
it's
lot.
gonna be if it's like gonna be a 10, it needs to, it's usually like for films anyway, it's like repeat viewings of films. I'm like, okay, I've seen this film a couple
Mm.
times, it's that good. But yeah, so we're tying this episode into the release of Poor Things, and I have seen it. I went to a film festival. It was a packed screening when I saw it. Like it was full. Like there were people on my, because my friend was on one side and there was like an old couple on the other side, and I was like, oh boy, I wonder if they know what they're in for. And the guy asked me, he's like, "This is for Poor Things, right?" And I'm like, "Yep." And I'm like, "Okay, so this is definitely the movie he's meant to be in. He's definitely." And I was just like, there were times where I wanted to just like look over and be like, "What's this guy's reaction to this?" Because like he was an older guy, but I was just like so focused, and I felt like that would be a bit weird if I just looked over at a stranger's like, "What's he making of this?" And he's there with, I think, his wife, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting because I looked around and I'm like, most of these people are like 20, 30 something year old film students. I'm like, okay, this makes sense. And then there's just an old couple next to me. I'm like, interesting, not not what I expected. And the film, it was yeah. I messaged you after I saw it, and I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, one of the best of the year. I think it just it's his. I mean, I've only seen three of his films, but I think it's very easily the best of the three. It just it just di- it's probably the funniest film I've seen, like from this year. I think it was just, some of it was just like, some of it was sort of like this I was just laughing at how, like, what the fuck is this? There's like certain moments where I was like, "What is this? What is this film doing?" And I was just, and I look at there's a specific moment in it, and I was looking over at my friend just to get his reaction, and he just was like mouth agape, like, "What the fuck is going on?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, fair enough," because I was like, "This is funny," and like I know it's meant to be funny, but like, yeah, it's fucking, it's very weird, but it never felt, it like occasionally felt like weirdness for weird's sake, but so much of the film was just fun. Like it was just
Mm.
pure fun. Yeah, it was fucking great. I can't, like performance wise, just fantastic. I'm just talking a lot now. This
Oh
whole
no, no
festival.
worries. But
But like,
I've
yeah,
got some questions for you. But
yeah, no, Emma Stone, fucking just, like, she's, if she does it in the Oscar, which, I mean, it'd be weird if she didn't at this point because it seems like an obvious win. It would be like, what, why, how did that not happen? Because it just seems like an obvious slam dunk
mm.
of an Oscar. Mark Ruffalo, yeah, he should be winning. Like, look, I love
Cool.
Gosling. I love Gosling and Barbie. Don't get me wrong.
Mm. Mm.
Gosling is great, but Mark Ruffalo is the best comedic performance of the year. Like, he's so just funny, and it's with the simplest things, like head turns are just like or he just like it's just it's just so I just couldn't, I was like because I didn't think The Favorite was particularly funny, and I sort of went in expecting that, and I was like, okay, I heard Poor Things
Mm.
is funny, but it actually was funny. Like it was a genuine, like, laugh out, like this, like there were just moments where we could not hear this, like what the characters were saying. Like we were, like, that's how loud my showing was. Like we just like could not hear the movie, and I'm like, man, subtitle. I really wish I wanted to. Yeah, it should be sweeping technicals, to be honest. I mean, I think I prefer Saltburn cinematography, like just a little bit more, but like
Fair. It's
costume
gorgeous.
wise, it's great. The production design is incredible. Like it's such a great use of color as well. Like the way colors sort of contrast with each other. Like it's vibrant. It's in it's yeah. It's I loved it. I can't. I really want to see it again. I never want to. I don't get that with new films. I've seen that film. I'm just not gonna watch it now for a few years because I don't.
Mm.
There's other films, but I want to watch it again.
Oh, all right. When I was reading the book, I was kind of taken by how both like really weird, really funny. Like I was genuinely laughing out loud as I was reading the book, which does not happen for me like ever.
I don't think
But
I've ever
also
had that
how
while reading the book,
no, yeah, but
but I also don't read that
I
much.
thought some of
Yes.
like the lines in here are just so funny. I couldn't help myself. But it's also just weirdly earnest as well. Do you think that the film sort of has those three tones? Do you think it does that a bit, or how would you describe the
It's
tone of the film? Is what I'm asking.
it's there's a real sense of like this is a film that if you explained it to conservatives, they get upset because it's about it's a woman who like is very like wants to help people and wants to do the right thing and wants to sort of help women and everything. Like it's that
Mhm.
kind of film. And I think like it really like the film can get dark when it wants to. Like there's a couple sort of scenes that I'm like, oh, that's pretty dark, but it doesn't feel tonal. It doesn't feel out of place tonally. It's like, no, that makes a ton of
Mm.
sense. But there's a genuine, yeah, like there's a lot of fun that to be had with it. It's very, yeah, like Emma Stone, her cat, like Bella Baxter. She's a very earnest character. She's a
Mm.
very happy. She just wants to. She's very blunt because she's a character. She's basically she's like a child, in an
Yeah.
adult body. But there's a real a real earnestness and a real like no, it's a very it's got it's got some dark moments, but it's
Mhm.
very positive. The
Yeah.
film doesn't it focuses on the dark stuff, but that doesn't overshadow the the sort of happiness and the positive side of it as well. Like it sort of is able to play both sides uh, very well. It's very good at balancing tone.
Well, yeah, that's a real relief to hear. I
Mm,
genuinely cannot wait to see Poor Things because as someone who does really like the style of Yorgos Lanthimos, who thinks Tony McNamara is a fantastic writer, who is a big fan of Emma Stone, I think I've
mm,
liked her in pretty much everything I've seen her in. I think she enhances everything she's in. And just as someone who genuinely loves the concept, loves the book and everything, it just sounds like a film kind of made perfectly for me. And it sort of sounds
mm.
like it would be the best film in his filmography, in Yorgos's filmography. And I'm just genuinely cannot wait for December 8th. I desperately need to see this movie.
But so to listen to Poor Things, it's good. Like I'm interested in more people seeing it because I don't know that many people who have actually seen it. Just because like hasn't come out properly yet. But this episode was delayed by a while because they delayed the movie because of those strikes that happened. But yeah, so I was planning to do this back in September, but now it's here in December, and we still did it. Thank you for joining me for this week.
Well, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed doing this. And I love debating with you and proving why all of your opinions are wrong and why all of my opinions are right. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Where for the listeners, where else can they? Is there anything you want to plug before I wrap this up?
Ooh, okay. I'm gonna plug my serialized, which is can be found at Little Lucky. I'm gonna plug the Midnight Critics Circle, which I'm a big part of. It's a very cool website that William is also a part of, and reviews tons of movies on video games and TV shows, and it's a great website, and you should follow that at Midnight Critics C on Twitter, or just type in midnightcritics.com and you'll find our website.
I go read my mediocre reviews of things. Go read those.
Definitely, you have to, or you're not a real fan. You're not a real fan if you don't.
Yeah. Listen to all the old episodes I've done. I've done so many. Go listen. I'm trying to think. You were asking me before we started, Amy, which ones I'm proud of. Go listen.
Yeah.
I've done 2 Valentine's Day specials on the 50 Shades films, on the first 2. Go listen to those. Those are some of the most fun I've ever had recording. Like, genuinely, they're because the films are just so awful, and it's me and 2 other friends, and we're just talking about how and because we're both like, because when we recorded the first one, we were like 18, like we're like 18-year-olds, and we're just like, this is shit, this is just not. And then we talked, then we did the second one, and we're like, this is shit. And so we're gonna more than likely the third one next year, and then we'll have to find something else to do for the annual Valentine's special. Listen to my Pleasantville episode. That was the first one I did after my dad passed, and so it's like, that one's for him. So go listen to that one, because I put a lot of time into that one. And then just see what else tickles your fancy. I'm not gonna just listen to whatever, really. Just listen to just any of them will be fine. Like, literally just any of them, even the ones that aren't that good. Just listen to any of them, and share with your friends, your family. Rate me on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. Rate me on. I'm on like every podcast platform basically. So go find them, go rate them, and then spread the word so more people listen. So I can, more people know about this, and I get more listeners, because that's what. But yeah. That's pretty much all. Nearly end of the year. Got like 3 episodes left. Yeah, thank you all for listening to this one, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.